This is the year 2009, which in itself is an incredible thing to say. 2009, and the holidays will be here in the blink of an eye. Someone asked me recently to recall my favorite childhood Christmas on Sullivan's Island and to tell the best part. Honey, I've seen so many Christmases at this point, it's a little frightening to think of the numbers, but I do have many favorites. The most powerful memory of all is that right around Thanksgiving, my whole family, but especially my mother and me, got giddy. We danced from one foot to the other, sort of leaving this earth and taking off for some magical world, our hearts thumping with anticipation. And it was infectious. For about a month, we would be the perfect family. There would be no bickering and complaining until after New Year's Day, and the last spoon of Hoppin' John was consumed. Sometime in November, my brother-in-law, Scott, would bring us a burlap sack filled with paper shell pecans. At night, after the supper dishes were dried and put away, my mother would cover the table with newspaper or brown paper bags torn open. The music of Bing Crosby or some awful thing like Don Ho singing Hawaiian Christmas songs would fill the air, and the shelling would begin. She would crack the nuts and drop them in a bowl. I would take them from the bowl one by one, remove the shells, pick away the wood, and drop the clean whole halves in one bowl and broken pieces in another. About every third pecan found its way to my 7-year-old tummy. All the while, we chatted like two old women about Christmas and who was coming to dinner and where we were going to midnight mass. Every year at midnight mass, some of the island gentlemen who had imbibed a little too much Obi-Joyful would fall asleep and snore so loudly that the whole church giggled. One year, the priest actually came down from the altar and shook a man awake. It's true. Anyway, we polished every stick of wood we owned until the whole house smelled like lemons and paste wax. My mother would build a beautiful arrangement of fruit and nuts in the apron that sat in the center of our dining room table. I would snitch the kumquats, daring my friends to eat their insides. Greens were hung with lights across the front porch, and a beautiful wreath went up on the front door. After my mother tortured the poor man at the grocery store, making him show her 50 different trees, the perfect one was brought home, and it stood in a bucket of water overnight to convince her that it was absorbing fluid. Decorating the tree was quite the production. The bubble lights never worked, but they went on the tree anyway, and all the ornaments were unwrapped and laid across the sofa, while my mother told stories about them and dictated their placement. Big ones on the bottom, small ones near the top. Her childhood glass beads, the little garlands from her childhood, always in the front. And the big tacky ornaments from vacations in Florida were hidden in the back to balance the tree. Of course, there were strict rules on applying icicles, which came at the very end. Every year, my mother told stories of her childhood during the Depression, when her gifts could have been as meager as an orange, a chocolate bar, and a handful of nuts. I guess that was supposed to make us all grateful for any gifts at all. We were a pretty uncommercial bunch, and we didn't expect much in the way of gifts. They were mostly practical things anyway, like bathrobes and sweaters. Not that we didn't get our share of bicycles and toys. We did. But other memories take precedent, like my stepfather George reading a few pages from the Christmas Carol to me every night, and the way the house smelled when my mother baked. Then there was the annual visit from cousin Schroeder McInerney, who lived down the island. This is a great story. Every year my mother brought him 3 Irish linen handkerchiefs, wrapped them up and put them under the tree. At some point during the holidays, his old car would roll up to our house, and I would run and hide because he scared the devil out of me. He was old and stooped, and he smelled like stale cigars. Cousin Schroeder. He was never seen without a cigar, and he lived to be 90-something. Anyway, my mother would drag me out from behind the sofa or wherever I was hiding to say hello and to give old Cousin Schroeder a hug. I only hugged him for one reason. His gift to us was a cigar box filled with the most delicious fudge in the whole world. It really was. Over the years, raising my children and decorating my own house and entertaining my friends, we have repeated many of the traditions my mother taught me. We put up enough trees to build a small forest, swagged miles of garlands and lights, and cooked enough turkeys and roast beef to feed an army. But at Christmas, when I make Cousin Schroeder's fudge with my children, it almost seems like we are children together back in the low country of South Carolina. All that excitement, that crazy anticipation that something wonderful is about to happen is reborn. I love that feeling, being with my family during the holidays, doing something simple together. It's one of the many things that bring me great joy. I'm sending you and your family warm holiday wishes, and I'm hoping that however you celebrate, the 2009 holiday season will bring you that same sense of anticipation, wonder, and happiness, enough to last another year. I hope you'll enjoy The Christmas Pearl, a holiday story to remind all of us about what's important in life. And remember to behave. Pearl is watching you, yeah? Happy holidays, everyone.